All right. Good morning, afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar, NCRs, or Non-Conformance Reporting and Concrete Vision. Today, I will be your host, Brent Willson, the PM for CV, and Dan VanWieren, our president, will be presenting.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Again, as Brad said, we're going to kind of cover NCRs today, just kind of run through. Most everybody I've seen that has registered for this probably has, some understanding of the NCRs. I just thought it would be kind of a good topic to kind of go through and just show everybody, how it works from how we had set it up and designed it. The one thing real quick, and I will, bring this up at that point in time also, is what I'll be showing you is on our demo system. But specifically the workflow area and then also permissions that I'll point out to you are customizable within Concrete Vision without any programming. And so the workflow I'm going to be going through today is more or less our standard starting point workflow, but things can be turned off, permissions can be modified and stuff like that. And I'll make sure I point that out to you. So the different types of NCRs that we have in Concrete Vision obviously are production NCRs. These ones are used for tracking issues found in production. Whether it's during the production process or something in the yard or something like that, but the piece is still in your facility, has not been shipped out to the job site. The Field NCRs are more for tracking issues that are found at the job site related to non-piece issues or related to job site issues. Again, one of the key differences is a production NCR is for tracking a single issue on a single piece, where a field NCR can be related to one or more pieces on the job site. The primary difference between a production and field NCR, a production NCR is, again, one piece per production NCR. Open NCRs, production NCRs do prevent the piece from being shipped. So if a piece is scheduled to be shipped, by default, the system will be set up. It'll be the loads highlighted in red, showing that there's open NCRs that you have on that piece, and the load, you will not be able to print out your bill of lading delivery ticket until all open NCRs have been closed out for that specific piece. With field NCRs, again, they can either have no pieces or one or more pieces tied to them. And open field NCRs do not prevent a piece from being shipped. So you can have a production NCR that is going to actually be addressed and fixed once it gets to the job site. And so there is a way where you can then take a production NCR and convert it into a field NCR. And then that would automatically release the piece for shipping. Excuse me. So within Concrete Vision, under QC, the QC verification by bed screen, when it comes to production NCRs, this is the first way that you can create a production NCR. Your verification by bed screen is going to come up and it's going to show you all your pours for that day. It's going to show you what has been done, what hasn't been done on a given bed. If I were to open up this specific bed and go to my post-pour production checklist, I can start that checklist. And then I can come in here, and if this piece is fine when I'm going through my checklist, I can mark that as pass. If this piece is not, and you find an issue with it while it's still on the bed, you can mark it as failed. And then you would just create the, you would just click on the production create NCR button up here in the top right corner. That's going to open up the post-pour create NCR screen. It's not the full screen that you would have if you went to the QC production NCR screen to start one. This is more an abbreviated screen for you to capture the data and then move on and finish with your post-pour production. Again, your NCR status defaults to new. And then you could also set it into a review status by drafting, engineering, PM, or if it's a simple repair or something like that, you can put it directly into a repair status as well. The cause field, this is a drop down that you can maintain through the configuration screens. And so you would just mark off what type of error, is what was the originating cause of the NCR, and then a brief description. And then in the summary problem, you can do a lot more advanced description of your problem. Missing plate in bottom left corner, E101 is the plate name that we're missing. Down here underneath the NCR items, this is where you can classify what type of item is it. It's an engineering problem, engineering item. And then you can also have different types of NCR problems. Right now, I just have it set up for stressing, excuse me, but it could also be, embed off, whatever the different dependencies are that you have set up in your QC NCR setup. The action that's required, that can be filled in or that can be left blank. And then you can also add attachments to the NCR down in the attachments tab. Once you're finished creating the NCR, you would just hit save and close, and you're brought right back to the post-pour screen, and you can continue with the rest of your post-pour. Once you're finished and you close out, you'll see that on the post-pour screen here under NCRs, it'll show that this NCR was created. You can click on that and link to the NCR directly from this screen. Now that my post-pour has been completed, I'm going to just mark these as being completed. And then when I save and close out of here and go back to my verification by bed screen, it's going to show me down here that, I completed my pre-pour, my post-pour, but I have a red X underneath the NCR because I have an open NCR against that piece. And so right from this screen, QC would be able to see exactly what problems, what pieces still have open NCRs against them. The second way you can create a production NCR is if you go under QC production NCRs and click on the add new button. And so this is done when a problem is found on a piece, once it's already left production, typically yard issues, things like that. You would just click the add new button, select the job, and then you can select which piece has the specific problem on it. So I'll just select this one. I'll put in it's a production problem. Transport piece was not tied down and fell off trailer. Underneath my NCR item, I'll select production. Transport is the problem. And then again, I can just hit save and close, and that will then generate this new NCR that I just created right here for that piece. So underneath your production QC production NCR screen, by default, the filter that is set up on this is it's going to show you any new NCR, any NCR that's in QC review, or any NCR that has been waiting on final QC review. If I were to open up any one of these NCRs, this is where it'll expand, and this will kind of show you the entire workflow for an NCR. A new NCR can then be referred over to drafting, engineering, or project managers for review. If you select one of these three options, it'll automatically email whoever is, set up underneath the email events for production NCRs for this specific job. The email events are configured underneath the system setup, email events. And then if I go under QC, my QC NCRs. And so if I'm going to put it to my engineering review status, this is going to show me, here's the email that'll get sent, and then the contacts that'll get notified. And so if I want the engineer to be notified, I can just select that engineer, and then they will get notified whenever an NCR is created at either one of these locations on a project that they're assigned to. If you want to send it to a specific person, like an engineering manager every single time, you can click on the contacts tab, and then you would get a full list of all of your users in the system, and you would just find the one that you want to send it to and select that person. And then they would get notified, even if they're listed in the project contacts as the engineer for that job. If they're clicked over here as well, then they'll still receive just a single notification. But by having them selected on the contacts tab, you're ensuring that they're going to receive a notification on every single NCR that is put into engineering review status. So if I switch it to engineering review status, and when I hit save, that will automatically send out the email to whoever's listed. And then also to that person that I had defined to also send the NCR email to. Down at the bottom, there is the notes field, and this is going to, keep track of when statuses are changed, any of that type of stuff. I moved it to engineering review, and then the email event trigger was sent out for engineering review. Engineering would be able to see where all of the NCRs are assigned to them off the engineering menu. Down here, there's one for drafting. This would show by default anything in drafting review. This one will show anything in engineering review. Off the jobs menu, there's a one for PMs as well. And this one would show by default anything for project managers to review. If I go underneath the engineering review screen, this is going to show me, again, depending upon your filters, we have it set up where the engineers would see any new NCR as well as anything that's been put into review for them. You can also have it where they would only see just NCRs in engineering review status. So again, depending upon how you want to set up your workflow, you can control what statuses are viewable on the filter, and then which ones are the default that it's going to show. To open up and edit the NCR, you would just click the edit button. And again, this screen has permissions onto it based on which screen you're viewing. So from the engineering review screen, the information up here, some of it is locked. some of it isn't. You can also lock all this information that was originally filled out by QC when it's not being changed within the QC module, if you want your permissions set up that way. Down here, underneath the action required, this would be where, the engineering would be able to put in what do they think needs to be done for this NCR. They can upload attachments. There could be photos already attached from QC of the problem. So this is for the double T with a mix issue. This, action required would be just to, patch the issue. Engineering would then put it back into QC review, and then that would send an email to QC saying that this NCR has been reviewed by engineering. And then it would fall off their list and it wouldn't be shown here anymore. Again, the add new button shows up here as well. That again is a permissions thing on whether or not who would have the permissions to add new NCRs, whether that's just a QC function or whether that should also be a function underneath engineering or project management. So it just depends on the permissions that are defined for your concrete vision. If I go back under Production NCRs, in here, you can see this one is back into the review status that was sent back from engineering. And then from here, QC would be able to look at it and then they can issue it to, where's it going to get repaired? Is it a production repair? Is it a finishing repair? And then they can keep track of, who is going to fix the problem. They can mark it as a production repair, print out the QC report, and then they can hand that over to production to fix the problem. If your production people that are working on NCRs, your fab shop, your finishing department, there are also NCR screens for them underneath production. And then again, those screens would just show them NCRs that are in their specific corresponding status by default. And then from here, they would be able to go in and open this up. And as you can see here, they have no edit capability. Everything is all locked. The only thing they would be able to do then is just come in here and mark it as QC final review, indicating that the production NCR has been fixed. That would then send it again back over to production, to QC underneath the production NCRs for the final review. And then from here, QC has the ability to then mark it off as complete. And once they do that, then that piece would then be able to be released for shipping. Now, if you open up an NCR like this one here, and they look at it, it has a missing plate, and they just decide, you know what, we're going to fix that out in the field. You can just come up here, click on Convert to Field NCR, and what that will do is it'll take this Production NCR and it'll automatically move it to a Field NCR. And so now it shows up over here as a Field NCR. And then they know that they need to fix that specific problem. Sorry, wrong one came up. They would know what they have to do to fix this issue out in the field. They would be notified based on the NCR status, who is set up to receive those notifications, again, based on the email events. If I go back underneath my QC production NCRs, that one is now removed from the list, and then that piece would now be put on, would be released from hold so that it can be shipped, because it's sitting now over on a field NCR, not a production NCR. The other part of the NCRs, depending upon the product type, there's two different parts for recast. There's a recast scrap, and then there's also a recast stock. A couple other statuses that have been added in the last year or so is repair not needed. So if an NCR has been created and it's deemed that it really is fine, you can just put this into a repair not needed status, hit save, and then that'll close out the NCR. The last one down here is we added a new status called complete without repair. And it's similar to the repair not needed, but it's where if you have a situation where the general contractor is saying there's a problem with the product and you're saying there's not a problem with the product, you can mark it as, we're going to complete it without fixing it, but then you're preserving all of the information that you have about that NCR. If anything comes up in the future that you would have to go back and reference it, you'd be able to see that, yeah, we did document it, but we didn't fix the repair for whatever noted reason that would be on the NCR. And you'd be able to come down here and add specific notes to the NCR to document why you're not going to fix that specific problem. The status of recast scrap, if you select that status and hit save, what that'll do is it'll move this specific piece into scrap status, and then it'll automatically add a new one to its place on the job. So if I come in here, hit save, I can select a reason. Was it a production issue, quality control issue, yarding, that type of thing? There's two checkboxes, charge SF, charge CY. Those are reporting checkboxes on whether or not you want to track, does the replacement piece need to have chargeable square footage or cubic yardage? And then there's a report that would show you which pieces do require that and which, so that you can make sure that you're charging for that replacement piece. When I hit save, again, this is going to close out that piece. And then if I were to go and look at that job, and I look at my piece marks, this is an HC01. It now shows that I have one rejected, and then I have a new one in backlog. And so this is going to show my status where this one is a scrap, and then it automatically adds a new one into backlog. With pertaining to control numbers, when you scrap a piece through the QC process, the control number of the replacement piece is going to be the original control number, and then we append a -R to it to represent that that's a recast piece. There's also a new serial number that would be issued to that piece also, but the -R would indicate that this is a replacement piece for a scrapped piece within Concrete Vision. The last thing within the production NCRs is recast stock. And that's if you have a product like Halocor, where you can actually use this piece on another piece. And so when you select the recast stock, it's going to come up and it'll ask you for the scrapped piece mark, usable length. This was the original length. If we have to cut off 15 feet of it, it's gonna drop down to 15 foot, and then whatever the usable square footage and cubic yardage would be can be typed into here as well. And then you have an option up here. I'm just going to say it's an HC 1500 representing it's 15 feet long. You can add to stock and create a new piece mark and backlog, or you can add to stock and delete the original piece mark and not add a replacement. So depending upon if it's an extra piece that was cast that's no longer needed on the job, or if you need to recast it, you would select the add a new piece to backlog. And then that would, automatically add a replacement just like the recast scrap does. And then this piece here would then show up over in the stock job now, where it would be able to then be moved to any other job where it has the same cross section set up on that specific product. With Field NCRs, there's again 2 ways to create a Field NCR. The first one I had showed you was over underneath Production NCRs. If you go to a Field NCR screen, you'll see all of your open Field NCRs. Again, you can have different types of permissions set up. Which statuses do you want to see or not see on this screen as well? From here, you can also create a new Field NCR. A lot of people do refer to these as field repairs, not Field NCRs. This is a place where you'd be able to track anything that you're classifying as a field repair, not a Field NCR also. You just select add new. You'd be able to select which job, is the NCR for. You can select a piece, but again, you don't have to have a piece when you're selecting a Field NCR. And so this is going to give you all of your pieces on the job. So it shows that this first grouping is in inventory, where they haven't even been shipped out to the job site yet. And then the second grouping are the pieces that are actually at the job site. It'll show you the piece mark, cast date, the load, when was it delivered, and then also your control number and serial number are listed on all of the information. So if this Field NCR is affecting the 2 pieces already on the job site, you would select each one of those and then add them to the NCR. Again, you can select a cause. I'll put down that it was a contractor error, the footing is off. And so the footing's not wide enough. And then again, you can come down here and just like with the Production NCR, you can identify what type of problems it could be. These are all, again, set up underneath the configuration. So I'm going to just pick missing. And then you can fill in what has to be done for now, or you can just save it and close out of that specific Field NCR. Now, because it has 2 pieces listed, this is how it's going to show up, the Field NCR number, and then below it, it shows the second piece. So you have your job, and then you have your piece mark, the CLA 001, CLA 002, and then what type of problem was it? And then again, from here, you can open it up edit that information. You can send it to your drafting department, engineering department for review to determine what needs to be done or not. Or you can mark it just as being repaired directly from this screen here. And again, you can limit the choices of what the person would be able to do based on the different permissions that are set up for the system. And then again, you do have the option to mark it as repair not needed. Or if a product got damaged at the job site, you can mark it directly as recast scrap, and it would scrap that piece and add a replacement again back into production, just like the production NCRs go. So if you move this to engineering review and hit save, again, engineering is going to get notified. They would be able to come in here, go to Field NCRs, and then they would be able to see all of the Field NCRs that are in their current status for them to review. Engineering would then be able to go in and add additional comments to here, what would need to be done, and then they can send that back and then they would be able to change this back to PM review or mark it into the being repaired status. The Field NCRs are more designed and intended to be more of a field PM function, like a field repair, where the production NCRs are more of your QC department takes ownership of those ones. So this was where it would go into a PM review, which is then where it would go back for the project manager to then open up the Field NCR and get with the contractor and determine what needs to be done, and then update the status as things are being done to being repaired, and then also repair complete once that repair has been fully completed. With the Field NCRs, just like with the production NCRs, you can add multiple attachments to the system. You can either upload a bunch of attachments from this button here if you want to do multiples at one time, or you can click the add button down here and choose a file locally to grab one of your attachments as well. But we did add a function recently for multiple uploads. So you can click on your add files button and then select multiple files to upload all at one time, versus just one at a time, to make it easier to upload a bunch of files at once. Then again, there's also a field report. So if you need to print out information and give it to a contractor, you can print out this information. It's going to show you the pieces that are associated to the specific NCR. What is the problem? What action needs to be taken to fix the issue? And then again, you can close this out and see a full list of all of the NCRs. There's also underneath QC, you can come under here and there's a QC non-conformance log. From here, you can then drill in and filter all of your open NCRs. By default, this is going to show you everything based on a specific timing. So any NCR that was created between this date range is going to show up on the log report. You could change this to say, I want to see everything that was from March 1st that is, that has been completed, or, what has been marked as being recast. And when I search, it's going to just show me the items that are in those two statuses. So I can keep track of, what's, how many pieces got scrapped at a specific time. You can also go in and look at, what is the, how many different times did we have a production error for that date range? And then again, it's going to show you everything that where it was based on the cause was a production error, so that you can then drill down and find out, what are some of the major causes of your NCRs. And how many production NCR problems were there? Different combinations based on the non-conformance. If you select a single job, so if I went in and selected just this one job, you can go in and delete out your dates. And if you don't select anything, then that will give you a log for that entire job showing all of the NCRs that are in the system. And so if you have to go back and print a recap of all the different NCRs, for your job, you can just come in, select that job, and then it'll return and show you all the open NCRs, open, closed, whatever your different filter criteria are. This can then be printed out into a PDF or exported into Excel if you want to look at the data some more using one of those reports. The total NCRs by item problem. This is going to show you based on the different problems, based on a date range. So if I say March through April, this is going to tell me I had 2 issues for batching, 1 drafting issue, 3 production QC issues. And then what are those different ones? 2 of them were transport problems. And so this is just a quick way to show you what are the most common problems that you're having in with production NCRs. Is it batching issues? Are they engineering drafting issues? Are they production issues? So that you can look at those and decide what areas that you need to focus on. Is there a problem with a mixer? Are they not tying stuff down correctly when they're moving it out of the plant? Any of that type of information. You'd be able to drill down into that more by looking at this, seeing the different total NCRs. Again, this can be done based on date range. If you have multiple plants, you can run it for 1 plant or all plants. And then again, if you select a single job, you can then run it for an entire job versus just a single date range. One of the last reports I wanted to just quickly bring up for NCRs is the scrapped piece mark report. This is going to show you, specifically all of your scrapped NCRs. So based on your date range, it'll show you anything that has been scrapped within that date range. And then it's going to also show you the total square footage, cubic yards, linear foot, and then any costs if you associated that to the NCR. If you look at the NCRs, if I open this one up, you'll notice that there is a cost field here. And then there's also 3 fields for hours. Currently today, those are just input fields. They're not tied to timesheets if you're entering time into Concrete Vision or anything else. It's more for your QC department, engineering departments to roughly cost out what is an engineering costing from a dollar standpoint and hours standpoint. They can be filled in on the NCR screens here. or they can be filled in on this NCR update cost field screen. This screen here will let you edit those 4 fields on every single NCR. You can then filter based on status, job, depending upon what all you're looking for, and then you'd be able to maintain those fields if you're doing it after the fact. Okay. That was that was mainly what I wanted to run through on the NCR information. I did want to kind of stop there. It looks like we have several questions that have come in
Yeah, I can go
that
over
we
those
wanted to go
questions
through on
to you,
those.
Dan. So I will read the questions off and respond to them as I can so they're not showing up in our video. But first
Okay.
question we have, Dan, recast stock. Will it tell you what piece and job it came from? What attributes and tracking is there with this? There, people would like to answer this. Can you? Oh, sorry. Yeah. So when you
Um,
recast stock, what data does it keep about the original piece and the new piece, and where do you find it?
the I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. The recast stock. I do not believe it retains currently today the old information when you do a recast stock. It doesn't pertain, it doesn't keep the original job, any of that information today. It would go into just a log file that you'd be able to review. But that is one of the processes that we are going to be reviewing over the next couple of weeks. It's the move inventory pieces and how that affects the stock and non-stock pieces. Because that's been coming up a lot lately with moving pieces around between jobs and stuff, and which information and making it easier to get the information from the different jobs. So, I will double check and find out if the information is visible today, which report you can pull it from for the recast stock information.
Okay, and the person who submitted that, when Dan has figured that out, I will reach out directly to you to give you the answer. Uh, Question 2, Dan. How long does NCR data stay in the system?
The data is never deleted out of the system. So Concrete Vision does not purge data over a period of time. It all stays in there. So you can go back 5 years from now and pull up NCRs against a job. So real quick, back on that scrap piece, the scrap piece report is going to show you the job that it came from. So if it's this is the scrapped report, I'm sorry, not the stock report. So I will find out if there's a similar report to this one for the stock piece.
Okay. Thank you. And then the big one. So you had mentioned in the webinar that if people wanted to change defaults, the workflow, or add or remove statuses, where do they do that and how?
Okay. So the different statuses listed here underneath configuration, there is a QC permissions screen. This screen will this is the screen that allows you to pull up.
Real quick.
Yeah.
All right, real quick, Dan.
So This is the screen
real
that
quick.
allows you to maintain all of the permissions for the different NCR screens. It's intended to be maintained by your system administrator, local system administrator, or they can also contact any of us and we'll help them out. It's right up front. It is not a super user-friendly screen, but it does give you a lot of power. Where this here is telling you, so for the engineering screen that you would find, which would be this screen right here. If I expand that, you'll see that I have I can change what is the filter status field listing to say which statuses are visible when I go to that screen. I can turn these on or off on what they can do or not do. Which ones are the default selected. So this by default only has the new and the engineering review selected. And then the edit screen, this is going to say what statuses can somebody change it to. So if they're not allowed to move it, to a specific status, then you would not have that checked. So if engineering should only be moving it back to QC review, then you'd want to make sure that all of these ones down here are unchecked. And so they could only take it and put it, it would be from engineering review to QC review. And then the last one is the editable fields. And this is what fields are they allowed to edit. Can they add a new piece? Can they complete it? Can they convert it? And then can they edit the main cause description, which is what's filled in by the QC department? Or should they only be able to edit the the fields down here, the work order required, require review, action required, and not change any of the other information that was created by QC? Excuse me. And so you can do that same set of permissions on each of the individual NCR screens. Again, it's just a matter of selecting, this one's for the drafting, production repair, steel shop repair, the PM, the mobile screen, that type of stuff. So this is where all of those, the different statuses, as far as what you can turn on or off, and then what's editable. As far as modifying what's in the status list, that is something that we would have to do for someone if they want to interject a new status into the QC workflow. We have to maintain the status list behind the scenes because that's the only way we can link it. Excuse me, we can link it to all of the email events and any of the other triggers for dispatch, for loads and stuff like that, just like with your job status as well. So you can turn everything on or off. You can set all of your field permissions from this screen, but you can't go in and actually add a new status to the screen right now. That's just something that you'd have to contact us for, and we can do that.
All right. Thank you for that, Dan. While we're answering questions, now is a great time to be putting them in the question and answer tab if you have more. I do have one more for you while we wait to see if other people want to enter them. Can scrap stock transfer to another job? Example, Texas Department of Transportation to commercial stock, or job that will take scrap stock?
Yes. So you would just come in, select the location. I have this as a stock job. It'll show me everything that is in stock. And then I can select any other job I want to move it to. And then I would be able to move it from this job to this job. You can also move from job to job. So if I come in here, I have this piece set up on this job. And if I select this job, oh, I don't have any more. I can take this one and actually move it to this job by selecting the copy move function, and it'll automatically move that piece. So it'll allow you to do that whether it's from the stock job or any other product. You can move it between jobs by using this move inventory piece function. So the stock, if you produce directly to stock or if you scrap something to stock, each plant that you have would have a job set up for all of that stock inventory. And then that's where you'd be able to come in here, select that stock piece, and then move it to whatever job you want it.